Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. We are jamming this afternoon. We've got multiple arrests across the board that we're going to get into, starting with some illegal alien voters. People who were not supposed to be casting ballots, who we're told never cast ballots, can't even do it, and wouldn't do it even if they could because of fear of prosecution. Well, we've got a handful of them who actually did. We'll talk about it. It's coming out of Michigan. Dana Nessel, who is the AG under Big Gretch Rona, we remember her, now charging 6 additional people. And what's curious is there's even more people that she is not charging. So we'll take a look at the charging documents, felonies being filed here. We'll unpack exactly what is happening there and ask ourselves why the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, also there, said that there was no evidence of this under oath in front of Congress when clearly there is. Then we've got a Democrat mayor out of Massachusetts also charged. And this one's a big one because he apparently grifted off over $1 million of the pandemic cash and then parlayed that money right into his campaign to become the mayor. And the whole thing is scandalous. We've got the charging document here queued up. We'll see what the DOJ says about it. But another one goes down. Then we've got the World War II memorial Vandal. She got arrested this morning, got a video of this lady. And she's been charged with felonies in the federal court in D.C. And Judge Jeanine Pirro came out and has something to say about that. And more reaction there as well from people who were there on scene and reacting to the desecration of a sacred World War II memorial. And then, of course, the Mangione case. He took a guilty plea today. And now they're trying to get the state case dismissed. But we'll take a look at the motion from his defense team. They're doing something a little sneaky here to try to go to federal court, close this thing out, use the federal plea deal to then immunize him from the state level charges. But in New York, they're not buying it. We've got those documents queued up and some reaction from the U.S. prosecutors as well. So lots of great stuff to talk about today. Justice is in the air on this lovely and incredible Friday. We've got arrests, baby. We always love to see that. So we'll get into it. We're very glad that you're here. Thank you for liking the video, sharing the show with a friend or family member, and for being here on this lovely day. Let's take a look at what is actually happening out there. After we confirm, we're coming in loud and clear, and we are. That's tremendous news. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Multiple non-citizens now charged for voting in elections. The thing they say never happens, of course, has happened again, has been happening for a long time, and now felony charges are coming down in court. We've got the state of Michigan bringing the cases here, and this is a curious one because Michigan has been filled with, in our opinion, a bunch of fraudsters. People like Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State, Dana Nessel, who is the Attorney General, Big Gretch Rona, of course, the Whitmer kidnapping hoax, all been in leadership positions in this state for quite some time. And now we've got 5 non-citizens who got hit with multiple criminal complaints and felonies all filed in the state of Michigan. And so we'll take a look at each of these charging documents. You can see we've got a slew of them queued up here. But the announcement came from Dana Nessel over on X. She said, "In my office, we've always taken election crimes seriously." Okay. They said that there were no election crimes, that they didn't actually have any evidence of non-citizens voting in elections, and we prosecute attacks on our voting systems to the fullest extent of the law. And we've seen now the DOJ coming down to these various secretaries and shaking the tree, explaining that if you don't do something about all of this fraud in your voter lists, we are going to prosecute you. And a lot of the attorney generals have actually responded. The secretaries of state have responded. We got New Jersey that came out and said, oh yeah, we actually do have some non-citizens voting, 400 of them. We had in Arizona, the Adrian Fontes, Secretary of State, make the video outside of the pie factory to explain that he's doing everything that he possibly could as well to prevent any bad actions from happening. And so now we see yet another one, this time out of Michigan, who's explaining that they're finding fraud and they're saying they're doing something about it. She wrote, "We're upholding election integrity by investigating all claims of non-citizen voters, as rare as they are, and holding bad actors accountable when they refuse to abide by the laws that keep our elections safe and secure. And remember, the Democrats say that they would never do this because of the penalties, and we're clearly seeing right now that they did in spite of the penalties. We also see that she said these charges reflect the severity of the allegations, the sanctity of our democracy, and the tremendous consequences of voting illegally. And now they come out like they're big election integrity people when their butts are on the line. And now, whether that's done to try and test security measures or to make an unlawful vote count, now these people have been charged. And as we mentioned, it's a strange situation because Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State, back in 2024, according to the Michigan Senate Republicans, said that she went to Congress, she testified under oath, she said there is no evidence of non-citizens voting. And the people that we're about to look at literally just got charged for voting in 2024. And today, that is obviously proven to be untrue. Here's Jocelyn Benson, who's now running to be the governor out there, explaining this to Congress.
I agree as well. We're doing everything we can to ensure that non-citizens are not able to vote and that only U.S. citizens vote in our election. And it's working. There's no evidence that non-citizens are voting. If they were, it would be easy to prove since voting records are public. And despite numerous organizations spending a lot of money to try to convince people that non-citizens are voting, none of these groups have actually been able to provide any evidence of it.
That's curious because your own attorney general literally just came out and said 5 people did that. And so maybe she's a liar and maybe she should be brought up on charges for that. So here's more of the announcement. Now, there's a lot of details in this. We don't have the actual the affidavits that accompany the charging criminal complaints, but they do give us some details on exactly what went down here. And we'll come back to this, but let me show you just the actual charging documents. You can see right here, this one guy, his name is Harumi Michael. He got charged with election law forgery, count 1, forgery, count 2, election law unqualified elector attempting to vote, and count 3. Each one of those a felony, 5 years, felony, another 5, another felony with 4 years on that one, and then a misdemeanor with 90 days on this last one, which is a false statement to become a registered voter. Weird. And that's curious because Jocelyn Benson said there was no evidence to this, and anybody who brought it up is just a liar. So that's one. Then we've got this other guy, another felony complaint, Robert Piva. We'll learn more about them. Election law, false swearing felony, unqualified elector attempting to vote, felony, election law, fraudulent registration, misdemeanor, all signed off by the assistant AG and going in for charges. We got number 3 here. This is one defendant with 1 felony, election law, attempting to vote. This one is called Basant Sadasivian. And of course, everybody's presumed innocent until they're found guilty in a court of law. But then we got another one here, Kimberly Ann DiDonato out of Michigan. She's got 2 counts here, one felony and another a felony. That's a big one, 7 years. This is using a computer to commit a crime. She did use a computer or computer network to try and conspire to commit forgery. So here's 2 different counts for her. And then the last person right here is Alondra Harker. And we'll learn more about them. This person got hit with a misdemeanor, registering as an elector when you don't even live there. Not a resident, not qualified to do that. So misdemeanor on that one. And the details go down and you can learn more about it from the AG herself. And what's curious, as we saw, is they didn't charge everybody. There's a whole bunch of people here that they're not charging. They're saying we don't have evidence to go figure out whether they actually had intent. And they're using this legal concept where they're saying the government essentially induced them into going to vote. And so they'll blame the government, which means they're not criminally liable for any of it. Writing throughout 2025, the Michigan Department of State actually got referred 16 cases suspected of non-citizen voting. And they voted in 2024. At the same time, Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State, just said there's no evidence of any of this. Maybe she didn't look. There were an additional 22 cases that have been referred to the AG about suspected non-citizen voting or adjacent conduct in elections going all the way back to 2009 to 2025. And I think these are all good news, but it's also, I think, a limited hangout, right? It's this idea that you're going to give some deliverables. You're going to say, oh, look, we fixed it here. we fixed that. We're not actually not looking into these things. But the question is, how hard, how deep are they going? 6 cases have resulted in criminal charges, but 10 of them, so more, were closed than were actually charged. 10 of them have been closed without charges, and 22 are still under review. So we saw the charges for each one of these individuals. One guy's 39, one guy's 60, one guy's 26, one guy's 60 over here, 67 with the various counts. She gives us a little bit of a statement, and here's more details on each of these election fraudsters allegedly. Michael Gouveia is a lawful permanent resident, though not an American citizen, not allowed to vote. And it was alleged here in the charge that he was registered to vote in 2016. He used an Inkster address and voted in 2024. How did he do it? An absentee ballot. Oh, in Oak Park, he said, I am a citizen on the application and on the ballot envelope. Weird, because they said they never do that because the charges are so severe. In March 26th, with 1 count each, he was arraigned on May 19th, coming back to court August 25th. The next one is Kimberly. Now, this one's interesting. She is an American citizen. She's married, though, to an LPR, a lawful permanent resident. He's ineligible to vote. So then she went on and posed as her non-citizen husband. She registered him, gave all of his identifying information, registered him to vote in April 24. And so these people really don't want Trump to win the election again. So they're just registering their non-citizen spouses. So she then got a voter registration card in her husband's name. After she got it, she then contacted the clerk to cancel the reg. She claimed that it was her intent to only just check the system and to test the system and wanted to identify the vulnerabilities to unqualified voter registrants. She may have been kind of a good actor, somebody with good intent, but she got charged anyways. And, you know, even if she was just saying, I want to test the system to see if they'll register non-citizens, she's vindicated. Okay, they did. They registered the dude. So they charged with 1 count of election law forgery. She was arraigned and she's coming back for a preliminary exam August 20th. The next person, Alondra Harker, limited term alien resident, not a citizen, not allowed to vote. She did register and she did vote in person in 2024 in 3 Rivers. Charged with election fraud. She's going to come back for a pretrial on 9/10. Harumi Michael, another LPR, though not an American citizen, can't do this. He did register to vote in 2024. And how are they getting ballots? How are they ending up on the registration lists if they're non-citizens? Is anybody even checking? He's charged after he did vote in the 2024 general election in Commerce Township. Hit him with a couple of counts. It's a she. She was arraigned and bound over. She'll have her next court date August 27th. Next one is Robert Piva, a lawful permanent resident. Again, not allowed to vote. He claimed that his vote was an experiment concerning voter fraud. So he's charged with 1 count of election law perjury. He was also arraigned. And this is curious. It's interesting to see why lawful permanent residents would be the ones probing the system. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They got a ballot and he voted anyways. He was arraigned. Next court date, August 26. We've got this other person, Basant Sadasivian, lives here, not a citizen. It's alleged that this person also registered to vote in 2024 by email, just sent an email in via the federal postcard application system using an address voted in the same federal system in 2024, charged with 1 count of a violation. Now, after investigation, it was also determined that 2 voters subject to cases referred were American citizens. Another voter subject to a complicated international adoption as an infant many decades ago is presumed to be an American citizen, and her federal alien file is missing and irreplicable due to the passage of time. Another referred voter carries legal residency, was an American Indian born in Canada. Although that doesn't confer citizenship, they enjoy a lot of the same privileges. And so we're not going to charge those 4 people. She explains why the non-charges came down. Now, in 6 other cases, votes were cast by non-citizens. But the AG has closed its investigation into those other 6 and is not going to charge them. She says the department would be unable to prove the voter had the requisite knowledge or belief that they could not vote, that they were unqualified. saying that they'll argue entrapment by estoppel, saying the government sent them a ballot. The government put them on the list. So we thought that if the government sent us a ballot and gave us essentially the documents that we need to cast our ballot, that we're allowed to vote. And you can't charge us if you endorse the action. Now, saying the government was encouraging them. In several cases, the AG investigation was unable to determine how they registered, and further underlying the necessity of being able to demonstrate how they became registered. She says another law specifically says you can't prosecute people who, without intending to register, suddenly became registered through human or mechanical error. Isn't that strange? So almost like a glitch out in New Jersey where people get thrown on the list, but it's a human error. It's a mechanical error. And so the fact that you got a ballot, okay, you know you're a non-citizen. Let's not be children about this. You know you're an alien. You're here on other status. You're not a citizen. You get a ballot. You cast it. That's knowledge, and you voted. The 6 closed cases concern another woman from Detroit, a lawful permanent resident. She voted 4 times between 2010 and 24. Another man, lawful permanent resident, voted in 24 and on 7 other occasions. No charges. Grand Rapids guy holding employment authorization within the U.S., though not a citizen, voted in 24. And though after his voter registration had been challenged, his status was affirmed, he was reactivated by the local clerk. So somebody says you can't vote. Somebody throws him off the list. The clerk puts him back on. That's how problematic this thing is. This is why we say it's a limited hangout. Who was the clerk who put him back on? Why is she not charged with facilitating illegal voting? Now, a Kimball Township man, also a lawful permanent resident, again voted in 2024. No charges for him. We've got another Oak Park woman, lawful permanent resident, voted in 8 elections. 8! Every election that comes up, these non-citizens are like, who are you voting for? Well, I don't really think, I like them, so I'm going to go vote for the other guy. It's crazy. Now, a Wyandotte man, so in other words, every election, no one's checking and nobody's maintaining the list. Once you're on the list, you're good. This is why Mark Elias and the Democracy Docket people, they are so irritated and furious anytime you try to actually sanctify the lists. Another man, an LPR, registered in 2013, voted in person in 24 and on 4 other occasions as well. And they say there's no election fraud. They voted in multiple elections. There's dozens of illegal votes here. So voter registrations associated with every identified non-citizen voter, they've all been canceled until the clerk puts them back on. And so they had a couple of statements here. They have 22 open cases that have come through. Those are being referred. Don't know where they're getting referred from, but it sounds like Jocelyn Benson didn't ultimately do any internal checking on her own. She went out and was specifically saying to Congress, I have no evidence. There is no evidence of any of this. And all of these other groups haven't presented anything. It's because they're not checking. They're perfectly happy allowing the lists to be filled with illegal voters because they know how they're going to vote, and they vote in favor of the left. So big updates on this one, of course. Lots of charges got dropped, and Dana Nessel saying, we told you. We are doing our job. The federal government has not always provided easy or open access to certain necessary citizenship records. That's hilarious because they're suing to stop Trump from creating a citizenship list. It's been injuncted across the nation because of an Obama judge in Massachusetts called Indira Talwani. They don't want any of this. So when they find the fraud, they blame Trump for it. They blame the federal government for it. Meanwhile, the entire party, which all these 3 Spice Girl Democrat ladies are on, the Democrat side, they don't want any reform happening at all. So these delays contributed significantly to our timeline for review. So it's a scam. They're scammers now, just going after some token individuals. And even if some of these people were acting in good faith just to kind of poke the system, they were validated. They got on the list. They got ballots. They voted. And it sounds like for years, many of them voted over and over and over and over again, and nobody stopped them at all. So this, I think, is an admission. And every time one of these things comes out, it validates our side, because we were told that 2020 was the most safe and secure, most perfect election in the history of mankind. And it sounds like these people, many of whom voted 8 times, 7 times, 4 times, I would suspect that those were 2020 votes. And they did not want to include that year in any of these things. They said, oh no, 8 prior times. Was it 2020? Yeah, we know it was. So arrests now happening. We've got 5 criminal complaints that have been filed, multiple felonies here. And the truth is coming out. And once these little cracks happen in the facade, we can start asking questions about it. How did this happen? How are they sent ballots over and over? Did you ever actually check or validate your list, or check them twice to find out who's naughty or who needs to be deported by ICE? No, you didn't. And that's all good news for transparency as we continue to open up the crack to expand it into a full-blown investigation. And these people are all complicit in it. So happy to see this happen. Of course, more election fraud will be discovered, and we will continue to prosecute until election integrity occurs. We'll keep our eye on this one. Now, more arrests are happening across America. And this one was a very curious one as well. A Democrat mayor has now been arrested. This guy stole over $1 million from the pandemic cash, and he repurposed large portions of it to pay off his debts and to fund his campaign. So while many people were under the scrutiny and the thumb of Dr. so-called Fauci, we also had people inside of government who were ripping off their fellow citizens. You see, this guy's name is Brian DePena, and he is a Democrat mayor out of Massachusetts. You can see he took office November 12, 2021, and he needed some cash in order to win this race. He was previously on the city council and now has been arrested for fraud charges in federal court related to the theft of COVID funds. Here's more on the announcement from the FBI. They say FBI Boston and the IRS special agents have arrested this mayor, the guy's a mayor, of Lawrence, Massachusetts, for allegedly fraudulently obtaining over $1.5 million in COVID and SBA loans, using the proceeds to fund his campaign account, pay his personal taxes, and pay off $883,000 in high interest mortgages on several properties that he owned. We took him into custody without incident earlier today, and the indictment's wild because, or the criminal complaint is wild because he's got text messages with the people that he's talking to get this scam through. So here's what the DOJ had to say. Fraudulently obtaining $1.5 million in COVID, used the funds to pay personal taxes, campaign expenses, and more. And the charging document reads as follows. So 2 counts here happened from 2020 to 2022. Massachusetts is where many activist hack judges are from. And in that district, we'll see what happens to him. We've got Brian Murphy's out there. We got Indira Telwani, bunch of some of the worst judges in the country in this district. And so he's charged here. And it's a 13-pager. We've got an affidavit from an IRS special agent, a guy called Zachariah Marino. Shout out to him for digging into this. And here's what he said. And some of these messages are wild between this defendant and others. He writes, I am employed as a special agent with the IRS, been there since 2018, and I investigate a lot of things, okay? Criminal violations of IRS law. I've done a bunch. I attended law enforcement training, executed numerous search warrants, and I'm pretty good at my job. And I hold a bachelor's degree from New Hampshire. So I am now writing this affidavit to support 2 charges against this Democrat mayor from Massachusetts, money laundering and wire fraud. Here's why. Of course, this is just an affidavit to establish probable cause. There's a lot more to this, but this is all I need to articulate right now. So DePena is a resident of Lawrence, Massachusetts. And I think there's DePena, okay, DePena, not DePena. So he says that he's the current mayor, okay, in Massachusetts. He campaigned for mayor in 2021, first got elected in November 21. He was reelected in November 25, and prior to being elected mayor, he was a member of the city council. Now, in addition to holding political office, he also owns and operates a tire sales and automotive service business called Tenares Tire Service, located in the city. And he's been incorporated since 2014. So I've got public records. We've got a bunch of subpoenas. I got the details from SBA, Massachusetts Campaign Political Finance, and we got the good stuff, the emails and the text messages that we got via legal process. So the SBA, as we know, they're an agency of the executive branch. They try to strengthen the economy by giving loans apparently to fraudsters and H-1Bs. Among other things, they're authorized to make loans eligible to small businesses in disaster areas called EIDLs, which are economic injury disaster loans, which he got a bunch of. Now, back during COVID, we also had the CARES Act, the federal law to provide emergency assistance to millions of Americans. Give them cash so that billions of dollars could help small businesses experiencing financial disruptions survive after their man-made pandemic. So CARES Act EIDLs had terms that were very attractive, a very low interest rate, 3.75%, 30 years repayment, deferred first repayment date after 12 months, maximum loan amount, 150 grand, but then they increased it to 500 grand. Then they increased it to $2 million. Open the floodgates, come get your money. Now, a small business applying was required to complete a loan application, be a good business, have a business name, have some financials, total number of employees, and more. They did not request a specific loan amount, but then it would go to the SBA. They'd look at gross revenues, they'd look at cost of goods sold, and then they would identify how much that person was entitled to. Everybody would sign everything with a digital signature. You'd all submit it through your portal in order to submit your application. And you had to be honest on this. When you submitted it, you had to be truthful. Now, they did receive applications and documents, and the server was located in Virginia, Iowa, or Washington, so not in Massachusetts. So when he submitted this fraudulent document, it crossed state lines, and the feds got involved. Now, all applications in this case went to Iowa. So if the SBA gave you a loan, you'd get 3 documents. They'd send you the documents. You'd have to sign them. Loan docs, loan authorization, promissory note, and security agreement. And in those documents, say everything is true. Once the loan was executed, boom, the cash would be deposited into your bank account. Then they would get their loan. You could, of course, go back, ask for some more cash. Then they could approve even more. And again, in the loan mods, you would then have to go and, again, validate that everything was truthful. Now, in this case, there was a business that is receiving these funds could only use the money to help alleviate damages from COVID. You could only use these funds to carry on the small business so that businesses didn't fire everybody out there and we didn't jump into a great recession. Before they dispersed the loans, people needed to certify that they would only use it for these things. Check this box, sign it. I'll only use these proceeds for working capital and more. Now, what happened here? That's the background. Now, according to the SBA, email and other electronic records on or about May 4th, DePena caused an application to be electronically submitted, fills out the paperwork, he requests and gets approved for $150,000 for the tire company. That's his business. Then, according to the SBA and others, he comes back May to June, same year, and submits another one and signs that one for another $150,000. That's on June 17th. Then June 18th, we see the funds were actually transmitted, $149,000, $900. So maybe $100 in a transaction fee. Boom, those get deposited into the credit union, and this dude is flush. Now, based on bank records, it then looks like DePena used the majority of the funds from the first distribution as working capital. He says, okay, fine, I'll keep my employees going. I'll buy some more tires and more. Here's a picture of the tire company, as you can see. So it's DePena Plaza. Looks like he owns the whole facility. He's got Mia Laundromat with free soap, free dryer, Tenares Tire Service, and little business over there. And it's got a little advertisement for himself. That's hilarious. So Brian DePena for mayor. Come get your tires changed and vote for me. There's also a bakery in the same building and a laundromat. So then what happened? By early 2021, he gets some deposits early. Those are actually legitimate June 18th, but he goes, oh, it's like a free money machine. I'll take it. By early 2021, then he needed cash. Bad. And you can hear it in his voice. In January 2020, DePena had purchased a new house, 342 Broadway in Lawrence. He dropped $700,000 on that. Sounds reminiscent of Letitia James, Lisa Cook, and others. But according to subpoenaed records, he borrowed money, dang, at 12% interest from a hard money lender. Whew. He borrowed $525,000 at 12%. The loan was a balloon note payable in full by January 21, and it was secured by a commercial mortgage, his security agreement, and an assignment of leases and rents against his tire company and that property that he owned. That's a lot. And other real property. Okay, so he goes all in on this thing to buy this house. In addition, he also owed another $375,000 to another hard money lender in connection with the June 2016 note secured by other properties that he owned. He owned another one, 272 Broadway, 73 Tremont Street, 9597 Tremont Street. According to subpoenaed records, the interest rate under that note was 8%, and he was obligated to make monthly interest-only payments of $2,150. So this dude's getting underwater. Now, according to records from financial institutions, starting at least as early as August 2020, so the pandemic is now upon us, election is coming up soon, DePena sought a conventional commercial real estate loan from various lenders. He said, I got to go refinance these other notes. That's a 12% and an 8%. I'm getting hosed here. Evidence from those institutions revealed he couldn't get loans. They're like, no, we're not going to loan to you. On or about February 9th, then, 2021, 2020 election's over. Joe Biden is drooling on himself in the Oval Office. DePena wrote an email to the balloon note lender requesting a 6-month extension so I could go get new financing. He sends this over to them from the mayor. He says, Dear Redacted, I am writing you to inform you about how I am still in the process of trying to obtain refinancing for the property on which you financed for me. I understand the loan was only for 1 year, and at this time I would like to see if you would please extend it by 6 months in order to give me ample time to get new financing. The pandemic has complicated things, but I have been succeeding on working my way towards completing the payment. Lender responded. They did extend the balloon note maturity date to July 19th, saying, I hope that works for you and you'll be able to refinance in that time. Well, that was nice. Wow. So then, according to IRS records, in addition to the balloon note in the promissory note, by April 21, he also had an outstanding federal income tax liability. Oh, man. His personal tax debt was an impediment to his ability to get conventional financing. They're like, we're not going to give you cash because you're going to take our loan and go pay off the feds. So according to SBA records, email and other records, in or around April 21, he caused the loan modification request to be submitted to increase the tire emergency loan. So now goes back to the feds and to the SBA and says, I need a loan mod because my business is going under. On or about then, July 14th, the SBA approved the modification. They gave him another $350,000 plus the $150, brings it up to $500,000 in cash. Now, as set forth above, then the balloon note was due on July 19th. So now he's got to take that cash and go pay the other guys. On or about the date set forth here, after the SBA approved the tire mod loan, but before the documents were executed and before the funds were dispersed, he sent the following text to his accountant and financial advisor, who's doing a terrible job, who had been assisting him with the application and the modification. He sends to the financial advisor, he says, brother, call me. I'm in trouble. I don't want to pressure you, but I don't have time to wait for this loan. I'm in your hands. Prayers. July 25th, another text. This advisor's like, again. Mute. Brother, I need your help with this loan. I've been trying to reach you all week and I haven't been able to get it resolved. I know I'm bothering you a lot, but I have no other option. Only you can give me what I need. Couple days later, July 28th, brother, call me. Prayer, 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 prayer. Now, according then to SBA records, so this guy's like cooked, okay? That's like panic mode right there. I need that cash or I'm in big trouble. According to SBA records, email and other records, then he caused the electronic execution of another amended note for an EIDL to the tire company in the amount of $500,000. Now, when the documents were executed, he filled out the following false certifications. Now, what we'll see is that in June 3rd, footnote here, a $10,000 targeted advance was deposited into his account. This was funding that did not need to be repaid. It was like a grant from the feds. The text here were originally in Spanish. Oh, that figures. They were translated into English after the fact. Great. Not even committing his fraud in English. Yeah. Now, in an amended LANA, the borrower will use all the proceeds of this loan for economic injury as a result of the COVID. And you can't use it for anything else. You understand that. You sign that. Yes, I do. Here's my signature. Can't use it for personal, financial, or household purposes. Now, in truth, he did not intend to use the funds solely as working capital, as we'll see. Now, in the meantime, the balloon note lender had granted him an additional extension. And then in August, approximately $350,000 in loans, again from the feds and us, transferred into his tire company account, ending in 7823-2. The balance of the account prior to the deposit of the funds was $20. $20.23. That's it. Dude is cooked. It's like how I was like my freshman year of college, $20. So $350,000 goes in, and now he's got $350,000 and $20.23. Fills it back up. Now, as we advance on August 26, about 10 days later, the sole signatory on the account, so he gets all this cash turned in there, made two payments then to the IRS. So the feds pay him. He takes out of the account and just sends it back to the feds, paying $85,000 for his personal tax liabilities with the disaster funds. Wow. Bank records also show that he used another $90,000 traceable in EIDL funds for his mayoral campaign. Specifically between August 16th and September 10th, he transferred another 20 grand from the Fed funds from the tires company. So feds into tires, he pulls it into his personal account. And then on September 10th, he caused to be deposited two checks. So he writes now a personal check to his campaign, $10,000, qualifies it as a loan coming out of his personal account. Then on August 19th, another $10,000, again, federal cash, goes back into his personal account. And prior to the transfer, the balance in the personal account was $16. And this guy wants to be mayor. This guy wants to run a whole city. And he can't even manage his finances, which is why probably we're in such a financial predicament across the nation. Then he conducted the following transactions. On September 14, 2021, after two checks totaling about $15,400 were overdrawn on the committee to elect Brian DePena, he then again, so cashes checks, now he's negative 15 grand, transfers another $25,000 going back to the federal cash from his personal account to his personal account, one to another, used the funds to purchase a $25,000 treasurer's check payable to the campaign. Once again, campaign to elect Brian A. DePena, and caused the treasurer's check to be posited into that account. Same thing happens on September 16th, transfers another $10,000, personal account, goes and buys a check, does the same thing, deposits it into the committee account. Again, October 20th, another $25,000, so back traced to the Fed cash, comes out, calls that one a loan, and pays himself. Then October 27th, another $22,000. It's all just like funny money. Comes out of his account, another $10,000 right into his campaign coffers. Now, according to public records, when the Massachusetts Office of Campaign Political Finance asked him to report the source of all of those deposits, he said, oh, well, they're candidate loans. Is that okay? And it was funds needed for funds need it, not need it, ED, need it, because he can't speak English, for the CTE Brian De Pena. Now, the SBA, writes this IRS agent, would not have approved a loan to the tire company had it known that the funds were going to go to his personal campaign account. The SBA also would not have approved these tire loans had it known the funds were going to be made payments towards his taxes. And meanwhile, according to the SBA emails and other records, he caused another loan modification request. And a lot of this was going on back during COVID. It was like a free-for-all. Kids in a candy store, everything's just wide open, just go get the cash. like one of those game shows when you get in one of those little closets and you're just like grabbing the cash that's flying around, and he's just shoving it in his pockets. Also then, on October 20th, he got another SBA loan stating that he was authorized to submit an application in the amount of $1.6 million. And then the SBA approved a second loan in the amount of $1.154 million. What the heck is going on over there at the SBA? Like, sure, here, have some money. Bringing the total loan amount to $1.65 million over the course of a year. Then in October, according to the SBA email and other records, he caused the electronic execution and submission of another note in the amount of $1.6 million. When the documents were executed, he again lied. They said, okay, fill out the form. You know you're going to only use this for economic injury. Oh yeah, no, definitely. Economic injury to the IRS that they suffered on me. In truth, he didn't do that. There was no alleviation of any economic damages that he paid for. So in November 21, under Joe Biden's stewardship, $1.15 million in funds were deposited into his account. Prior to that, his balance was $2,000. So then he transferred $1.15 million into his personal account. This dude must have just been thrilled. You imagine? You've got $2,000, you go to bed, you wake up, you've got $1.1 million in your bank account the next day. It's crazy. And he's like, it's 2026. He thought he got away with it. And he probably would have if Kamala would have been elected. So the balance in the personal account prior to that transfer was $1,400. Wild. So then he used another $42,000 to pay for his mayoral campaign. Once again, siphons off that cash, writes a $10,000 check, deposits it into the committee account. January 11th, another $32,000 check, and deposits that in the account. According to public records, when the OCPF asked him to report the source, again, he said they're loans. They're candidate loans. I'm flush. I'm a millionaire. And funds need it for the campaign. These are our elected leaders. In addition, he used $883,000 to pay off the loans of the hard money lenders. High interest loans. Now they're made whole. DePena then purchased a treasurer's check for $538,000, paid off the balloon note, went and withdrew another $345,000, paid off the promissory note for another promissory note. Again, they say, look, the SBA wouldn't have given us him any of that money if we knew that he was going to pay off his mortgages. These transactions would have been refinances, and you can't do that. So then in August of 26, now finally, we get to this era. DePena had only made 16 payments towards the entire loan. Okay, it's not free cash. You got to pay the government back. He only paid about $130,000 of that money back. All of the payments that were applied went to the interest on the loans. The outstanding principal on the loans was $1.65 million. Now, he was probably presuming that a lot of this would just be written off. I think many people were. Oh, it's an emergency. I'm never going to have to pay that back, so I'll just get this cash while I need it. And here in conclusion, they say that's the game. So probable cause is here and evident that DePena committed violations of wire fraud and aiding and abetting and money laundering and more, signed here by the IRS special agent called Zachariah Marino. And this dude is just cooked. So he's now been brought in, he got arrested today and turned himself over without incident. Arrested August 14th in Boston, Massachusetts. And the case will advance in the District of Massachusetts, where they're filled with leftist activist judges. And so we'll see ultimately what they do here. And I wonder if he's got any cash left. He'll need it to hire some lawyers. So all that went down. The DOJ said after this that he was elected to be a leader. He was looked up to and trusted by his constituents. But he betrayed that trust through his alleged corruption and lies. Today's arrest is just another example of our determination to root out fraud by anyone, even public officials, holding them accountable. So all that, of course, is good news. We got another special agent, FBI Boston. He said this dude was cashing in on a public health crisis and blatantly defrauding government programs, allegedly taking over $1.5 million, using it as a slush fund to pay his personal taxes, breaching the terms of the loans, paid off his mortgages. This was for emergency businesses to keep their employees employed. And when they misuse these federal funds, the FBI is going to go round them up. So there's one more picture. Text messages are just great. Like, dude, I need you. I need your help. Please get this loan done. $1.6 million. And how much more did this ultimately happen? Where else was this happening? And are those people who siphoned off this cash ultimately going to be caught? Don't know, but we got one guy going down. It's a Democrat mayor in Massachusetts. Arrested, charged with fraud. And so another victory. Shout out to the DOJ and the FBI and the IRS for tracking this dude down. And we'll keep our eye on this one until justice is served. All right, now another arrest. So 3 sets of charges here this beautiful evening. The World War II memorial vandal has now been arrested and hit with multiple felonies. We've got the charging document queued up here out of the federal court in Washington, D.C. And Judge Jeanine Pirro has explained who she was and what she did. And we've also got a video of this lady who was apparently live streaming some of this on Facebook and then turned herself in. Here's what Jeanine had to say, saying, vandalizing our World War II memorial is a despicable attack on a sacred monument honoring the Americans who fought and died for our freedom. True. Those Americans included my father and grandfather. Now, this morning, we are filing 2 felony charges, depredation against property of the United States and destruction of veterans' memorials in federal court against this woman, Melissa L. Ferris. Offenses that carry penalties of up to 10 years in prison, and she is now in custody. And this woman, as you see here, was out there at the World War II memorial, and she spray painted on the side of the memorial and looks like she had some type of yoga tube or some sort of carrying device. And we were speculating about this on the members' morning stream, where it may be that this is filled with some soap or some, granular dish soap or something. And she walked around the fountain and dumped it in with spray paint and more. And so there was be on the lookout for this lady yesterday after the story broke. And now she's in custody, but she actually posted on Facebook and was live streaming the whole thing. And apparently this lady is 41 years old. See if you can agree with that in the video that we're about to watch. She's from Elizabethtown, Kentucky, charged in criminal complaint, 2 counts with vandalizing. Melissa Ferris is her name, 41 years old, on Facebook as Melissa Lovewell, and was out there trying to destroy a sacred space. Here's what she sounded like before we get into the charging documents.
I'm here at our favorite place, guys. Why? Because tomorrow's my birthday and we're having a revolution. It's a tea party. Anybody watching this, please make an edit of the live, highlight the good parts, make me look fancy, get it all over the internet. Why the f*** I get arrested? I'm letting everybody know that I am turning myself in. I'm down the road from the federal district court.
All right. So she's leading a revolution. She's going to be out there. It's her birthday tomorrow. And then ultimately she says she's going to turn herself in. And we've got now the charging documents that have come down upon her. We'll take a look at more reaction from the DOJ, but here's what they've got. Saying that she, Melissa Ferris, now charged in federal court out of D.C., 2 counts. 1, willfully injuring or committing a depredation against property of the United States and destruction of veterans' memorial. We got the attached statement of facts that was shared with us from the U.S. Parks Police. And here's what they articulated for us in response to this heinous act. On or about 2 p.m., August 13th, members of the U.S. Park Police and park rangers responded to a call. Disorderly person in the area, disrupting visitors in the National Mall, specifically the World War II Memorial. An individual named Witness 1 reported that they observed an individual, Suspect 1, spray painting graffiti on portions of the Atlantic Theater Pavilion of the World War II Memorial. The National Mall is owned by the government, the feds. It is administered and managed by the National Park Service, which is part of the Department of the Interior, under the administrative unit known as the National Mall and Memorial Parks. Now, the World War II Memorial is part of the National Mall and honors the 16 million American service members who served during World War II, the millions more who supported the war effort from the home front, and the more than 400,000 Americans who made the ultimate sacrifice during the war. The memorial contains two main pavilions, the Atlantic and the Pacific pavilions. Named for the two main theaters of the war, over 4 million tourists pay their respect at the memorial annually. Now, as a United States park ranger responded to the call of a disorderly person at the memorial, the ranger observed foam in the fountain area of the Atlantic Pavilion, seen right here. So as we zoom in, bubbles and foam emerging from the water, and somebody did that. So upon walking up the ramp on the east side of the Atlantic Pavilion, the ranger observed multiple people gathered around the balcony, observing Suspect 1, videotaping herself like we just saw in the footage. After Suspect 1 became aware of the ranger's presence on scene, the ranger observed her flee the area, and they couldn't get her. Witness 1 reported that he took a photograph of Suspect 1, seen here. This was the one that was flying around the internet last night, which was recovered by law enforcement. Now, in the photo, Suspect 1 appears to be a 40-year-old white female. Looks like she's like 70 years old, but all right. With shoulder-length, dirty blonde hair, wearing a blue jacket, a brown skirt, and sandals. She also appears to be carrying a backpack, a large plastic tube with a strap, and a white plastic bag. Additionally, the photograph shows Suspect 1 holding a can of spray paint in her right hand, which is expelling yellow-colored paint onto the balcony wall of the World War II Memorial Atlantic Pavilion. Here's the photograph, and you zoom in the charging document. Does look like maybe this is yellowish after the red was painted. We've got the long tube. There's the white bag, got a backpack or some other satchel around her. She's got sandals on, looks pretty disheveled, has a thigh tattoo located here. So we see the park police continues right there identifying the can of the spray paint. This was taken by a witness on scene. Upon inspection, law enforcement discovered that the curved balcony wall had been vandalized. Specifically, orange-colored paint was sprayed onto the wall with the words, "Clean hands, dirty $," which I don't even know what that means. But additionally, green-colored paint was also sprayed onto the wall just under the orange spray paint, and a pink-colored paint was splattered on the ground of the balcony between the wall and the inscribed years, 1941 to 1945, the years of World War II. Here's more. You can see the pink paint down here below and the green paint kind of sprayed around here. Like, this lady was working on this for a while. So she fills out the line here, clean hands, dirty $, signs that in red, changes paint, then takes the green, sprays it around over here, then takes some additional pink, drops it on the ground right here. Terrible. Now, in a trash can near the north entrance of the balcony. So how long was she doing this? Is there any other footage of this? Where was the National Guard? How did she just stand there and commit this vandalism for minutes? Law enforcement recovered a white sign with painted letters. The paint used on the sign appeared to match the paint that was used to vandalize the northern entrance balcony. Here's the sign they found in the trash. Now, the photograph of Suspect 1 that was taken by Witness 1 was circulated within the park police. One park police officer recognized Suspect 1 as an individual who they arrested a few days ago, August 10th, for unlawfully camping on federal property in the area of 18th Street in Virginia in D.C., which is just a few blocks from the World War II Memorial. So is she a homeless lady or unhoused? Sorry. Over here, just north, so this is the World War II Memorial, as we see in the map. The reflecting pool, which was allegedly vandalized until Jeanine Pirro dismissed it, is right here. Lincoln Memorial is over here. We've got the Washington Monument down in this direction. And if you recall, this grass right here was where they wrote 8647, right here on the screen. And they didn't catch those people yet either. So we were a little bit nervous they were not going to catch this lady. So 8647, they wrote that right there. Lots of damage going on right here. The individual who was arrested on August 10th was identified by her Kentucky driver's license. So they backtraced it. Shout out to that officer who recognized her. She's Melissa L. Ferris, date of birth redacted, from Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And while park police officers were arresting her on August 10th, she was live streaming the arrest through her social media accounts. The Facebook and Instagram accounts associated with her had a username of Melissa Lovewell. All seen here. 878 followers, 14,000 posts, calls herself a pirate captain, panhandling America for America. Cash at me so I don't starve. Digital creator. It looks like she says, I'm located in Washington, D.C., has a family member, and has a Cash App or some type of handle to send her some moolah. And it looks like she's a professional panhandler, a pirate captain or whatever. So here's more. She then had this other page, which they got captured here. She's got a video right there of herself, not in the yellow sunglasses, this time in pink. And she says, after a review of her public Facebook and Instagram, law enforcement discovered that she recorded herself. Multiple live stream videos on the date of the offense, August 13, 26, including a recorded video of her admitting to damaging the memorial. She's cooked. So Ferris posted a public live stream video before she defaced the memorial. On the full live, she said, I am cognitively aware and executively of the choices I am making, and I am doing so to push my whistleblower case into the courtroom. Someone has to make choices that are different, and I am accountable for my actions. Well, and I am going to make these choices today, and I will step foot into the courtroom, and I will wait to be arrested. I'm accountable for the things that I do and the choices that I make, and our government needs to be accountable for their choices too. All right, so a little bit of a rant there. Was it worth it? Another post here, another screenshot. She then tags a bunch of things on Facebook. FYP viral, so like For You page viral. Jesus, yeah, fight back, rage against the machine, feel good, and vibes. Someone responded to her, some guy called JD, not Vance, said, Captain Kitty. Kind of relationship is going on there. I don't know. But in a live stream video, then she's wearing the yellow sunglasses. So she hops on another live, has some headphones on, has her sign. Don't know what the sign says. Looks like it's reversed, mirrored. Now in the live stream video, Ferris is wearing yellow sunglasses and a blue jacket consistent with the glasses and jacket worn by the suspect in the photo. So connecting her here to this lady here based on the jacket and the glasses, okay, right? Glasses match, jacket matches, and it looks like her. Same photo that was taken by the witness. Yeah, and she's 41. It might be meth, I don't know. But Ferris also posted a video on August 13th to her public Facebook page showing the memorial fountain filled with a foam-like substance and the vestibule spray painted. Further, she recorded herself saying, nobody cares. Why doesn't anybody care? This is unreal. Like she's damaging the property. And everybody's just walking by her. She's like, no, we're protesting. It's a revolution. Everybody's like, you're crazy. I'm going to just walk by and try not to get stabbed. Additionally, then, on August 13th at 3:58, she hops on another live, posted a video to her public Facebook feed saying, anybody watching this, please make an edit of the live, highlight the good parts, make me look fancy. That's a tall order there. Going to need some AI. Get it all over the internet. Why the F didn't I get arrested? You don't think that's weird? It does seem a little bit weird. There are National Guard all over the place in DC. Why were they not on her, pretty quickly as she goes to one side, fills the pool, goes to the other side, starts spray painting? I don't know. They do patrols. Maybe they just happened to miss her or she waited until they got by her. But later in the same video, she said, I was just allowed to deface federal effing property and nobody batted an eye. And that is very strange. In another public Instagram story, she also stated, so I imagine the police will be coming for me soon and I would like to have it recorded for my own safety, keeping it real. And members of the National Park Service and contractors were responsible for the cleanup and the restoration of the damage. A preliminary estimate of the total costs already exceeds $1,000, which seems a little bit light. Based on the aforementioned facts, we believe there is probable cause to find that she willfully injured, committed the crimes against the property of the United States, defacing a sacred monument, the Veteran Memorials World War II area, signed here by U.S. Park Police Detective called Christopher Edmond and then signed off by the DC magistrate judge called Matthew Sharbaugh, all submitted today, and the charges are now pending. So she was arrested according to the DOJ and brought into custody. Let's see if there's anything else here from their press release. Couple of additional photos. Of course, these are all allegations, but DC News was there on scene, NBC4. They talked to some folks who were in the area, and here's what they had to say.
It's really disappointing. I mean, this is World War II.
They don't deserve that disrespect.
To vandalize something is not the way to get attention.
Almost everybody who walked by the World War II memorial today stopped to see what was going on.
It breaks my heart because my grandfather was World War II, shot and captured in Italy, October 8th of 44.
It's a shame that people do things like this to get attention, because I don't believe that it's really accomplishing what they're really trying to do.
Well, let's show you what's been going on. Just after 2 p.m. today, a bunch of people started noticing that. Big letters in orange and in green spelling out what appear to be the words, "Clean hands, dirty money."
That's a lot of damage, man. That's that whole front facade. You can see, spray paint, you can get it off, but you've seen it. Like, you see when they remove graffiti, and you're not like painting over this, right? It's like not like the side of an alleyway. So hopefully they can get it restored.
Was
Terrible.
spotted on the Atlantic side of the memorial. So we can tell you the park police are investigating. The Interior Department, which runs this memorial, has called it an utter disgrace what happened today. And while they haven't released any information about any suspects yet, take a look. There's not one but 2 cameras just a couple of yards away from where this vandalism took place. So hopefully those will be of great help to the investigators. And by about 7:30 tonight, the National Park Service had a crew out there cleaning it all up. There were also bubbles coming from one of the fountains at the memorial. Police have not commented on that, though if you've been following along, you'll know that today's vandalism is just the latest high-profile incident to take place on the mall this summer. Back in June, the numbers 8647 were found on large patches of grass right by the Washington Monument. 8647 is seen by many as an anti-Trump slogan. And of course, the reflecting pool, which President Trump has claimed several times was vandalized. But back at the World War II memorial tonight, look at this. A nonprofit that works to preserve the memorial had this to say. There are many places in our country for expression, debate, and disagreement. A national memorial honoring those who served and those who never returned home should never be used as a canvas for vandalism. That's
right. So fortunately, they identified her. Sounds like she may have turned herself in. They have admissions from her on Facebook. The photos match very clearly. It's obviously her. So we don't necessarily need the other cameras behind them, but we're happy that they caught this person, and we'll see if she has any real defense or if she just immediately takes a plea deal. But we're happy to see that they did catch this person, so that this type of behavior is strongly disincentivized, because these are sacred places in America. And for some reason, we have lunatics out there who think it's appropriate to go in here and desecrate some of the most honored locations in the country. And Janine Pirro announcing the charges, the DOJ moving quickly and aggressively. She had court today. We'll see when her next hearings are and what is happening next on this one. And we'll keep our eye on it. Stay tuned as we do. All right. And one more update on the day, my friends. And then we'll hear from you. And we'll see what else is cooking out there on this lovely evening. And yeah, hopefully we're coming through loud and clear. I'm seeing some comments. It's a little bit laggy out there. My apologies on that. Not real sure why that might be. But let me pause for a moment. See if I can figure out if there's anything happening here. And then we'll jump to it. All right, so let's jump into our final story on the day, because we've got some interesting things that are happening in this one. And here is what we've got right here. Let's start with this document. Luigi Mangione now pleads guilty, but the case isn't over yet. He has ended the matter for now in federal court, but the state charges, according to the prosecutor in New York, is saying it's not over yet. We're going to continue to advance forward because the defense did something very interesting to try to immunize him from the actual murder charge. We'll come back and explain what's going on. But today, Mangione was in court, and if you recall, when he was originally charged, he had 3 different counts in federal court. So he's got multiple cases. The federal court is the one we're talking about today. There were 3 counts, one of which he did not plead guilty to. The first 2, count 1 was stalking for following and shooting and killing the healthcare CEO in the back like a coward, but it wasn't murder, count 1. Count 2 was another stalking charge using interstate facilities to travel to the location. But what's interesting is count 3, which was murder, is not a part of the plea deal, which is why the defense came in and pled guilty. Really, there was no plea deal, went into the court and just pleaded guilty to the charges. But in the federal case, this one had already been dismissed. The murder charge had been dismissed. But we'll show you exactly why the defense did this and what they're trying to argue at the state level now. Now that a plea has been entered in federal court, they're going to use that plea to try to get out of all of the other more serious murder charges in New York. Now, what happened today is brought to us courtesy of Inner City Press. And he was in the courtroom today, and here is what he said happened as this plea hearing unfolded. At 10:50 a.m., the defense team was in court. Karen Agnifilo, along with her husband Mark, Jacob Kaplan, and others at the defense table, courtroom 105. One of their team, often seen in Justice Caro's courtroom, all standing in the gallery behind them. Now 9 minutes to go. 10:53, prosecutors walk in. Assistant U.S. Attorney Gentile had arrived. He's shaking hands with Jacob Kaplan, who then rushes to catch up to the Agnifilos as they go back to the holding cell to go meet with Luigi. 10:54, U.S. Marshals come in with black plastic gloves on. One of them is searching the defense table to make sure everything is safe. There's a box of Kleenex there, if necessary. Marshals sets up behind the 4 chairs of the defense table. We've got 4 minutes in. 10:58, now Mangione's 3 lawyers have gone out. They shake hands not only with the prosecutors, but also with the others. Jun Zhang, Alexandra Messiter, and others. They're all in a huddle together. All the lawyers are powwowing. 11:03, boom, discussions among 7 lawyers continue. Prosecutor Gentile is clearly speaking for the government, Mark Agnifilo doing much of the defense talk, but often turning to Karen, they're nodding. She might be the bad cop, and they're communicating. Now, the huddle has split into 2. Jacob Kaplan remains at the defense table, talking with a man in a black suit and black shirt. We're still waiting for the hearing to kick off at 11 a.m. and hasn't started yet. Then enters Luigi Mangione, wearing MDC tan jail suit, hands behind his back, not handcuffed. Agnifilo's defense lawyers sitting on either side of him. Karen Friedman Agnifilo shows him some papers. 11:12, Agnifilo is pointing at particular lines on the pages. He looks down at it, looks up to her, nods and shakes his head. 11:13, then he signs a piece of paper and the hearing kicks off. Dun-ba-da-dun, door opens. Pfft. All rise. Judge Garnett walks in. All right, good morning, everybody. Please be seated. Counsel introduce themselves. They call the case. This is case number whatever. Now in session. Judge says, appearances, please. Counsel introduces themselves. We also have prosecutors say, Your Honor, good morning. We're the prosecutors, U.S. Attorney, Special Agent Thomas of the FBI seated here with us today behind us. Prosecutor Gentile says, Your Honor, also Mr. Thompson's family, who of course is the murdered CEO, is here today in support. Garnett says, the judge, do you have the application? Defense says, yes, Your Honor. Mr. Mangione is prepared to plead guilty to the indictment at this time. Okay, there wasn't a plea deal. He entered a plea. You can have a plea deal with the government. They can offer you a deal, say, we'll dismiss this charge, we'll agree to a particular set of sentencing terms. And in order to give you that benefit, you're going to have to plead guilty so that we don't have to continue to litigate this and go to trial and have a full-blown, jury trial and then potentially lose the case. We can kind of close it. But you can also just go and plead to the court. At the beginning of cases, it's almost 100 out of 100 times when the case starts, the defendant enters a plea of not guilty. A lot of people will make headlines of that. Oh, wow, this guy pleaded not guilty. Wow, shocking. Not really. It happens in every case because that's how you start the process. If you walk in on day one and plead guilty, you can do that. But many people don't because they want to see what the evidence is. They want to see what the discovery is. They want to see whether or not they'll get a good plea deal from the prosecutors, and they need to develop the case in order to do that. But just because you enter a not guilty plea at the start doesn't mean you can't come back down later and change it, which is what they're doing today. So they say, all right, we're going to plead guilty. Judge says, to what? Counts 1 and 2? Yes, because the murder charge at the federal level had already been dismissed, so there's only 2 counts left. Then judge says, okay, great, let's do it. Garnett, the judge, asks. Now we go through the plea hearing, and this is all very standard and formulaic. We've seen it in many other cases here, Koberger and more. Have you taken medications, Mangione? Or are you on alcohol or drugs? Anything in the past 2 days? He says a sleeping medication. Does it impact you in this proceeding? No. Any doubt, defense in his ability to plead guilty today? Is he on drugs? Is he doped up on something? Does he know what he's doing? Is he cognizant and present? Any doubt? No. How about you? Prosecutor? No. Judge says, okay. So, Mangione, you understand that if you take a guilty plea and plead guilty here today, you would be giving up rights by pleading guilty. You'd be entitled to a speedy and a public trial, but if you're guilty, we're not going to give you that. And of course, the question that Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee, is asking is, what about New York? We're going to come back to that because the defense also filed a motion to dismiss in the state case. Garnett says, you're going to give up your right to a trial, and you can't appeal this. Like, you're agreeing that you are guilty. You can't turn around and say, oh, I appeal because something bad happened. You will be admitting the crime. It's going to be over. Do you understand that? Yes. Are you willing to give up your rights? Yes. Do you understand the charges, Luigi? Yes. Okay. Turns to the prosecutor. What's the factual basis? What's the elements of the offense? Prosecutor Gentili says, well, Your Honor, we would show that he traveled interstate with the intent to kill Brian Thompson and shot him, resulting in his death. Also, on cyberstalking, the defense used a facility of interstate commerce to get here, to travel to this city. Says, well, what about, the judge says, is there intent to harass that would satisfy the law, the statute? Government says it would, Your Honor. All right, those sound like reasonable facts. You can't plead guilty to something that has no factual basis, no foundation for it. Judge says, all right, well, the maximum possible penalty is life in prison on counts 1 and 2, which could be followed by 5 years of supervised release and also a maximum fine of $250,000 on each count. So $500,000. Luigi, are you a U.S. citizen? Yes. By pleading guilty, you know you may lose the right to vote. You're going to be a felon. You're going to lose the right to hold public office. You can't serve on a jury. You can't have a firearm. Now, you also have a state case. So you understand that if you plead guilty here and the state case advances, you could be held on consecutive penalties. They're not going to run concurrently, where they are, 10 years or 50 years, whatever the terms are at the state level, and 50 years on the federal charges, all advancing together. One will happen and finish first, 50 years at the federal case, and then the 50 years at the state case will start after that. You understand? Yes. Now, your lawyers, you're pleading guilty to me. There's no agreement with the prosecutors. They're not saying if you plead guilty, we'll cap it at 25. It's open. So your lawyers cannot tell you what my sentence will be. And we don't know what the deliberations will look like in the state case. And do you understand that? Yes. I also understand that you have no plea agreement, but rather a letter with sentencing guidelines that are estimated to start at 292 months. So your attorneys, in other words, have advised you of the range of what the minimum might be, what the maximum might be. I already explained it's life, but you could get less than that. Do you understand? Yes. Has anyone forced you to plead guilty? No. Okay, well, tell me what you did so I can see that there's actual guilt here. Mangione says, I'll stay seated. And we got the official, so this is Inner City Press, he's in the courtroom live reporting on this, but we got the official transcripts that were released by the defense. So they published this after the hearing was over. Mangione stays seated. He says the following. All right, Your Honor, after years of enduring severe pain from a broken back, navigating the obstacles of the health insurance system and witnessing similar experiences of countless others, reading from something, I learned that United Healthcare would be holding its annual investor conference in New York City on December 4th, 2024, although the specific location was not publicly disclosed. Court says, I'm sorry, Mr. Mangione, sorry to interrupt you. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. So maybe back up a little bit from the microphone. Defendant Luigi says, back up. Okay. He's like all in the microphone. Back up. And just try to keep your voice up. The last thing I heard was that you learned that United Healthcare would be holding an investor conference in Manhattan in December. Okay, so go ahead. So Mangione continues. He says in the next bit, he says, I learned that United Healthcare would be holding its annual investor conference in New York City on December 4th, 2024, although the specific location would not be publicly disclosed, repeats himself. I then researched the event online. I observed that the annual conference of America's largest healthcare organization with the stated mission to make the health system work better for everyone, would be attended by company executives, the board of directors, and hundreds of investors, not doctors, nurses, and patients. So kind of a little bit of a rant here. In November of 24, I traveled from outside of New York State to Manhattan. I then emailed United Healthcare leadership, posing as an investor at a firm managing over $50 billion in assets, and requesting information about the conference. Now, unlike my previous interactions with insurers, where they never got back to me, I received an immediate response within an hour. Before traveling to New York, I used a 3D printer to make part of the gun, and I equipped the gun with the silencer and magazine. My travel to New York and email to United Healthcare was with the intent to shoot Brian Thompson. On the morning of December 4th, 2024, I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan and he died. When I did so, I understood that my actions would place him in fear of death or serious bodily injury. I knew what I was doing was illegal. That's his statement. The judge says, oh, all right. Well, that sounds accurate. And judge says, with evidence, he says, he goes to Judge Garnett. Judge Garnett says, any valid defense? Defense lawyers say, no valid defense. Judge, evidence? With emphasis on if the defendant knew Mr. Thompson would be in fear. Goes back to the prosecutors. What evidence would you present if this case were going to go to trial? So Luigi admits it, lays down a basis for it. They turn back over to the prosecutors. Government says, we have video, including of the shooting on 54th Street near 6th Avenue. Mr. Thompson turned and faced the defendant as he fired again. Walks up, shoots him in the back. He turns around, shoots him again. We also have evidence from his arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania, a 9mm gun, a notebook, including about United Health, and an eyewitness testimony of the shooting. Do you have evidence that Mr. Thompson knew what was going on before the second shot? Yes, we do, Your Honor. Okay, well, that sounds good to me, judge says. So how do you plead? Luigi Mangione says, guilty. Judge says, okay, well, there we go. So the probation department will want to interview you. If you speak with them, it's important you are truthful and accurate. If you see any mistakes in the report, point that out to them. And I'm going to set sentencing for December 18th. Are you free then? Looks at the lawyers. Defense says yes. And government presumably says yes. Case adjourned, plea entered, and he's guilty. So what happens, of course, is he goes over to probation. Probation is going to do an interview with him. They'll write a pre-sentence report. That'll go over to the judge. The defense will also make their sentencing recommendation. The government will make their sentencing recommendation. The judge will ultimately hand down the sentence. So that's now done. And you can see from the court docket, we had some of the updates here. Boom, several docket entries. Change of not guilty plea to a guilty plea. Not to be confused with a plea deal. He just went and pled to the court. We also saw the minute entry here, guilty as to counts 1 and 2, which are both the stalking charges. Gets an order of referral to probation for the pre-sentence investigation and the report that I just mentioned. And then sentencing documents from the defense are due by 12/4. Government sentencing due by December 11th. Sentencing coming back December 18th at 11 a.m. before the judge, Margaret Garnett. And so this case is now on pause and essentially done. Guilty plea entered. They'll come back for sentencing, but it's not over because the defense now has already submitted this filing over to the state court, and they're asking to dismiss all of the state charges. They want all of the murder counts gone. Count 3, the firearms count gone. They say he took a guilty plea today, and it all is connected. And it's a 35-page motion. They walk us through a bunch of stuff, but we'll advance to their main argument about double jeopardy and why they say that New York can no longer prosecute him, essentially. Now, first and foremost, they say it's a due process violation. There's double jeopardy rules. You can't be charged twice for the same crime. But New York actually has stricter protections than other protections outside of New York. And you'll notice something right off the bat. He pleaded guilty to 2 stalking counts, but not murder. In New York, he's charged with murder. So he's not being prosecuted again in New York for stalking. He's being prosecuted for murder, different elements of the offense. So what happens here is the defense says, essentially, it's all one giant bundle. So New York says it's not about elements of the offense, right? Stalking has certain elements. Murder has certain elements. There's some overlap between the two, perhaps, but there's also some differences. But they say that doesn't matter. It's all just one big bundle, all emanating from the same transaction, the same criminal act. Here's their argument. They say under New York's double jeopardy law, a person may not be separately prosecuted for 2 offenses based on the same act or criminal transaction. Okay, not the same crime. So stalking's different than murder, but they were both bound up in the one action, in the transaction. They define the terms for us, and they also will say prosecuted is very broad. Okay, prosecuted does not mean convicted. So if you're prosecuted for murder, which he was in the federal case, but that charge was dismissed. That was count 3 that we just looked at. They say that's good enough. All that means is you don't have to be convicted. It just means there has to be a charge. And so even the fact that he got originally indicted for murder means that that's off the table. Okay, it was prosecuted, that was dismissed. And now he's pleaded guilty to a transaction. And so they're now saying that immunizes him everywhere else, at least in New York. So they define some of these terms and they say what that means is the statute in New York does not limit the preclusion to offenses that have the same elements. Okay, so murder has different elements than stalking, but it doesn't matter. It's much broader of a protection. Nor does the statute require that all acts committed as part of one offense be committed as part of another or other criminal actions be precisely identical. The 2 offenses need only be based on the same act or the transaction. Okay, so stalking led to the murder led to the murder. Both of those were in the same sequence. For example, there could be other aspects of conduct like impacting interstate commerce in a federal offense that would not exist at the state level. That doesn't defeat and create 2 crimes because they're part of the same transaction. And explaining that here, that means that all of these other counts need to be dismissed. He's already admitted everything in federal court, which is why they did this. Saying, he said, I possess the gun, I possess the magazine and the silencer. The actions that are in each of these offenses are virtually the same. He also said that he stalked him. And so the full range of conduct that comprises the stalking offense is coterminous with the conduct that's in the murder offense. And so as a result, under this, it's the same transaction. Each of the 2 or more acts comprising this conduct was so closely connected in point in time and circumstance that it was a single criminal incident. Each of those acts constitute the federal offense of stalking for the purpose of killing Brian Thompson, trying to escape murder. Now, that Mangione traveled from out of state does nothing to eliminate stalking. The stalking led to the murder. They are all part of the same criminal incident or transaction. And that's because New York law expands the double jeopardy protections. It's not same offenses. If he pleaded guilty to murder in federal court, I think that would be clearly something that he could not be prosecuted for in New York. But New York, which is why they went to federal court first, is more expansive. They say it's transaction, not crime. So here, Mangione is charged separately by state and federal governments for the same act of shooting and killing. But New York law says that a person may not be separately prosecuted for two offenses based on the same act or transaction, not the same crime, because New York's crazy. On August 14th, Mangione pleaded guilty, causing Thompson's death through stalking, trying to escape murder, and the plea is guilty. And so that bars any other charges in New York. You can't hit him with murder. And so accordingly, the murder case must be dismissed in New York. And so that's the nuts and bolts of it. But I'm not sure that that's going to carry a lot of weight down there. And in fact, Alvin Bragg, one of the world's worst prosecutors, is saying, we're going to advance this. He can make that argument about double jeopardy, but we don't care. Here's the statement from Alvin's spokesperson saying, since December 24, the Manhattan DA's office has been tirelessly preparing to pursue a trial conviction in the state Supreme Court for the alleged cold-blooded murder of Brian Thompson. We are encouraged that Mr. Thompson's family received a measure of accountability today, and while federal sentencing is pending, we are prepared to litigate the defense motions. So they submitted a motion to dismiss. Alvin Bragg's going to say, no. It doesn't cover you here and require us to dismiss the murder charge. The Manhattan DA's office remains committed to seeking justice for Mr. Thompson and his family. So, of course, that's good news to hear. Here's also the New York Police Department police commissioner called Jessica Tisch, not that Tisch, a blunt message to those who are supporting Luigi Mangione. And there are a lot of them on the left who think that cold-blooded murder, whether it's Luigi Mangione or Charlie Kirk, is something to be celebrated, or innocent babies. It doesn't matter because in many ways it's a blood cult. But here's this lady, Jessica Tisch, explaining.
And to those who idolize Luigi Mangione, I say this: violence is not a cause, murder is not a message, and a killer is certainly not a hero. Now I'd like to introduce the FBI's Assistant Director in charge for the New York Field Office, Jim Varnicle.
Okay, so she says, stop idolizing this dude, you friggin' lunatics. It's murder. He shot an innocent man in the back. You may not like him, but go write a blog about it. You don't get to do a cowardly act and literally blindside another person with bullets to the back. So here's more. We had the prosecutors who came back out, and here's what they explained after the guilty plea in federal court. And the big question is he going to escape a murder conviction? Because if he is successful in New York and they can't prosecute him, he'll only be found guilty of stalking. And the sentence, I would presume, is still going to be very high because I would suspect the judge knows what they're trying to do and escape the murder penalty, but not sure if the federal judge will buy it. But the point is, he doesn't want that murder conviction. Here are the prosecutors explaining they're going to seek the maximum penalty under the law, and presumably that's going to be life.
Good afternoon. I'm Jamie McDonald, United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. At 6:45 on a December morning, Luigi Mangione stalked and murdered Brian Thompson in cold blood on a public sidewalk in Midtown Manhattan. Just a few moments ago, Mangione pled guilty to his heinous act. This was not a spontaneous act of violence. It was deliberate, calculated, and premeditated. In the days leading up to the murder, the defendant very carefully prepared for the attack. He tracked Mr. Thompson's whereabouts, conducted surveillance along the route he knew Mr. Thompson would take, and positioned himself to carry out the plan. Then, on a sidewalk on West 54th Street, the defendant murdered Mr. Thompson, shooting him from behind with a 9mm handgun equipped with a silencer. He shot Thompson twice at close range. The second shot came as Mr. Thompson turned and faced the defendant. The defendant did this as everyday New Yorkers walked nearby, and while the rest of the city woke up to start their day. Mangione then ran away, leaving Mr. Thompson to die. The defendant committed this murder in an attempt to draw public attention to his dislike of certain businesses. But we live in a civilized society governed by the rule of law. We debate, we disagree, we protest. We do not commit murder. No grievance, political belief, or ideological cause can ever justify murder. There can be no celebrity in assassination. Any person who celebrates, encourages, or excuses actions like these is fundamentally wrong. Mangione attempted to send a public message through violence, but the message that emerges today is very different. Violence is not a legitimate instrument to promote any political or social message. And those who resort to violence in an effort to advance their beliefs will be prosecuted, convicted, and put in jail. Today, the Southern District of New York, together with our law enforcement partners, writes the final chapter of Mangione's federal prosecution. Now, he stands convicted in federal court and faces life in prison. One other point that's important to note. While the defendant pled guilty, our office does not have a plea agreement with him. Instead, he pled open, which means he pled guilty to all pending counts in the indictment. There are no accommodations or concessions, and we are free to seek the maximum penalty under the law. I'd like to thank the dedicated prosecutors of our office's Violent Organizations and Crime Unit, who are beside me, for their remarkable efforts to bring this case. I would also like to thank the NYPD and the FBI, whose tireless and incredibly sophisticated investigative efforts made this conviction possible. Finally, I want to express on behalf of all of us here our deepest sympathy and compassion for the many family members and friends of Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson's family and many of his friends were in court for the guilty plea today. I know they will have an opportunity to be heard at sentencing. We all stand in awe of their love for their family and for their friend, and their unwavering commitment to seeing justice done in this case. We hope they can take some solace in the fact that from the beginning, we have brought the full force of the federal government to bear in this case. In this prosecution, we have consistently pursued the maximum penalties under the law as necessary and just punishment for these crimes. The result achieved today now allows our office to seek the maximum penalty allowed, life imprisonment.
All right.
Which, as I've conveyed to Mr. Thompson's family, is what we intend to seek.
All right, so life in prison will be the request in the sentencing memorandum from the DOJ. And I know it is a little bit confusing out there. And let's not forget why the federal murder charge was ultimately dismissed. It's because the argument is it wasn't a federal murder. It didn't happen on federal lands. It didn't happen as a murder that was, kind of crossing state lines or in other federal legal requirements that are necessary for a federal murder charge. It was a state murder. So the federal judge said that can't count. So the defense then latched onto that. They said, fine, if there is no murder charge, we'll just go plead guilty to the court without a plea deal from the government, which is their right to do. As charged, yep, guilty as charged, only to the two stalking charges, knowing that in New York, the double jeopardy rules, double jeopardy is a baseline that is set by the Constitution, but states can raise that. And ordinarily, it's not charged twice for the same offense meaning specific crime with elements under it. But New York, they say, it's really about the criminal transaction. So if you're guilty for stalking that led to a murder, their argument is that New York can no longer prosecute you for murder because it is the same transaction as the stalking charge. So we'll see ultimately what happens. I think that Alvin Bragg and the prosecutors will be aggressively making an argument that stalking is a different transaction than murder. he followed him around, was tracking where he was going, and then shot him twice and killed him, which is a separate act, and try to distinguish the two. Defense trying to bundle them together and say you can't hit us twice for this. The state will say the opposite, that we can. They are kind of separate and not the same thing. And I'm sure they'll use criminal elements, but also use a point in time. They're not too closely related. Stalking got him there, but then the murder and the shooting was a separate act, essentially. And we'll see what the courts do out there. But as it stands, all of the Luigi fangirls out there had to sit and read his ultimate confession. I shot him with intent to shoot him, and he died. I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan, and he died. Should have said that he shot him in the back like a coward, but he didn't want to include that in there. And I can't help but notice his little screed against the health insurance companies, which I know are not great, but doesn't justify murder, obviously. So saga will continue. We'll see what happens in New York, but they seemingly will be advancing forward with this until justice is done and the murder charge sticks. This admission may be useful and helpful in that process, but we'll have to wait and see. And so we'll keep our eye on this one. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we do. All right, now, friends, it's been a beautiful stream and a lovely Friday. We're glad you're here. Hopefully your week was outstanding. We appreciate you joining us this evening. And I don't know what you're doing this weekend, but I know over here, it's pizza night, baby. We're looking forward to that. So quick recap on what we talked about, then we'll hear from you. We had 5 non-citizens charged with illegal voting. Many of them got hit with felonies out of Michigan. And Jocelyn Benson said there was no evidence about this at all. We had never seen any voting fraud. Are you kidding? This is crazy. Turns out it's happening. We saw multiple people all charged. Harumi got hit. We saw Robert Piva got hit. Basant Sadavisian. This person, Kimberly Diddo Nato, and the last one being Alondra Harker. Non-citizens casting ballots and voting in our elections, many of them multiple times over. And the document was explaining some people did this like 8 times. Multiple elections over and over and over. And that's good news. So they just got hit. We then saw a Democrat mayor out of Massachusetts, all now criminally charged. The indictment was pretty wild. He got over $1 million in government cash, spent that money to pay off mortgages, to pay off his tax debts, and then, of course, to fund his election campaign. He became the mayor. He sent some very problematic text messages to his financial advisor and accountant. He ran a tire store. And then it was texting his financial guy, brother, I need your help with this loan. Help me. I'm cooked. I need that cash. Took the cash and signed documents that he wouldn't be using it for these purposes and did it anyways. Then we saw the Vandal at the World War II Memorial, now criminally charged. Her name is something called, right here, Melissa Ferris, aka Melissa Lovewell. She made a video about this, posted it on Facebook, multiple videos, and then went and vandalized a very sacred space in America. Now charged. Janine Pirro, happy to have this arrest under her belt after the reflecting pool disagreements. And we looked at the charging document, hit with 2 counts, willfully injured and depredation against property and destruction of the Veterans Memorial. They'll be fixing it, hopefully back and even better than ever. Then lastly, we got up to speed on the Luigi Mangione case. He has pleaded guilty, but it's not over yet. And we'll see what New York does about this based on their double jeopardy laws. I have a feeling they're going to distinguish this case, say that it is not the same transaction, and the murder charges will advance, but we could be wrong about that. We'll have to see. New York is crazy town. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing and liking the video if you're on your way out. And if you want to join us tomorrow on our Saturday members only stream, thank you for becoming a member. I saw we got some new members joined us this evening, and we'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. I got some other stories already queued up. We got TPS news. We've got, a 2020 fake electors case got dismissed. We're going to be jamming in the morning. So thanks for joining us back here tomorrow in the AM. But let's see who is joining. And you can join on YouTube, join on Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you care to join us. Otherwise, have a tremendous weekend. And we'll miss you. I'll miss you dearly, but we'll see you on Monday, hopefully. Let's see who's joining us on the day. We got a bunch of new members coming in, man. Thank you guys for bringing our new friends in. And people love being members. We saw this morning, people were saying, thank you for gifting me a membership. This is great. So thank you, friends, for bringing new people in. Here is another one. Busted. We got 3 arrests today and a guilty plea from a leftist savior. And I'm P Pickin' Cute. What's up? Good to see you. Saying, while given a depo every 2 seconds like mid-word, one of the attorneys would stand up and scream, objection, form. Initially, I thought it had to do with the phrasing of the question, but after listening to their arguments that didn't seem accurate, 8 hours later, I was about to throw stuff at them or bang their heads together. What exactly does that mean? It was 2 days of exhausting torture, and I will do my best to avoid in the future. You got deposed? Yeah, I mean, form... So I don't know what your lawyers or what their lawyers were doing or what this was about, obviously. But yeah, an objection on form is generally about the phrasing of the question. It's the form of the question. It's kind of a procedural objection, but I don't know. I don't have any other context about what was the question or what were the arguments. But sounds terrible. 8-hour deposition sounds terrible. Thank you on P Pickin' Q. Alpha She-Wolf, what's up? 39 months. Hey, thank you, Alpha She-Wolf, for being here. That's over 3 years. Congratulations and welcome, Baby Cannon. What a beautiful day. Thank you, Alpha She-Wolf. Baby Cannon's doing great. We had a lovely day together. He came down, did a little show prep with me. It was great. Thank you, Alpha She-Wolf. We're doing well and appreciate you being here for so long. It's amazing to have you. Elk Plow. Hey, now we need to do Dems. Now we need to do Dems. From Elk Plow. Oh, you mean for arrests? Well, we got one Democrat today, the mayor of Lawrence, Massachusetts. Well, now just got charged. I'm sure there's a lot more of that going on, with Letitia and others. Thank you, Elk Plow. Thank you for being a member. See you in the morning. Biology always wins. What's going on? Bringing in 5 new members. Thank you, Biology. Can't wait to see everybody in the morning. We got Lily Smith is here. Bioman, what's going on? Kay Badgett in the house. The Commonly Uncommon. And Charles Nadu. What's up, Charles? Welcome aboard. Biology. Thank you for bringing in 5 new members. We'll see everybody in the morning. We're going to have a great stream as well. Gloria B. What's up? 40 months. Amazing. That's a long time. I don't even know how many babies that is. Need a calculator. Always a joy to be here. Thank you, Gloria. It's really an honor to be spending time with you. Thank you for caring about these issues as much as I do and for being here for 40 months. You're amazing. Look at this cat. Hey, more here. Give me more. We got 20 new members coming in for more here. We love when more here brings more here. Basic Laura, what's up? Shane K. Hugh, what's up? Steel Manning. Bubba Dunn, we got Nurse Nick. Old Rhett Guy, what's up? Nunya. Hergal, what's up? Glenn McClure. Ken McCrae, we got Melon. Your wife's boyfriend. Joey Tamask, what's up, Lily? Aaron Lee. Lynn's over it. What's up? Candace Cox writes in the house. Candace Cox writes. Sergeant Funko MO, Dangerous One Eye, and Divine Proxy. All gifted members, courtesy of More Here. Welcome aboard. Thank you, More Here, for bringing in 20 new friends. We'll see everybody in the morning. 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. Probably. Unless Cannon's a little tornado tonight again. I'm just kidding. We'll be here at 10. Michelle, what's up? Hey, Michelle Parsons, man. Look at all these members coming in. What a lovely day. Michelle Parsons, thank you for bringing in 10 friends. We got Jake Boxkovitz. We got Remo Edward Williams. What's up? Toasted. Jennifer loves LSU in the house. What's up? Jack's Shoe. What's up? Happy Marigold. VWB. We got Granny to 13. 13 grandkids. Amazing, Granny. Minnie Bright and Babs 186 in the house. Amazing. Thank you for bringing them in, Michelle Parsons. We'll see everybody in the morning. Awesome to have our new members here. We have some good times in the morning. This morning, we talked about Ketanji, how she won't shut up during oral arguments. We talked about another judge in California who released an illegal alien who then went and murdered a guy, an innocent guy. And we talked about the Vandal, but we found the news was breaking this morning. The Vandal got arrested, so that's great. One old guy, Melissa, that's a man, baby. Yeah, she looks, it's like for 41, it's not good. Not 41. She needs to, eat her broccoli or something. Doesn't look good. Maybe it's meth or something else. I don't know. Someone else commented she's got teeth, though. Yeah. Meth is a long journey. I don't know, but hopefully something can get fixed in that brain of hers so she stops vandalizing sacred spaces. One old guy, thank you. You never know, could be. Michelle Parsons, this sociopath might as well have spit on the grave of my grandfather who died in Europe fighting World War II. Man, shout out to your grandfather. Those men and women, I mean, who served, it's like that was a whole, anybody who serves, you got a lot of respect for, you know, the amount of bravery. But like World War II was like, could you imagine like going on like on D-Day, like on Omaha Beach, like getting off the ship and charging the shores? The amount of bravery and testicular fortitude, it's like it's unfathomable. So shout out to your grandfather, Michelle Parsons. We appreciate that. Yeah, she might have. That's essentially what she was doing by proxy. So we're glad she got caught. What's up, one old guy? Witnesses say they hear them screaming. We like goblins, batses, and fishes, but we haven't tried hobbitses before. Is it soft? Is it juicy? We swears to serve the master of the precious. We will swear on the precious. I don't even know what that is. Is that like some sort of a satanic seance or something, one old guy? What is that? I don't know. Is it soft? Is it juicy? I don't know. And I don't really want to know. But thank you for the donation there, one old guy. We appreciate that. Thank you for being here. And Off Label says, the debate went just as I thought. Wish Andrew versus Candace would have pressed her harder, but even Candace fans were on Andrew's side. Covering it all in 2 hours on Off Label Podcast. Oh, is that Lord of the Rings? Oh, the Hobbits and Precious. All right, I got it now. Lord of the Rings. I got it. It just did not register. Is it a quote from that? Bats? Okay, I got it. Thank you for the heads up. A little slow today. Yeah, I know Lord of the Rings, although I never watched the films. I listened to Lord of the Rings audiobook, but I honestly wasn't a fan of the audiobook because of all the singing. It didn't land that right. But no, I did not read The Hobbit, and I did not watch the films. I really didn't, which I think is pretty sacrilegious of me. But it's true. It's just the truth. But I'm familiar with it. I remember now, you know, my precious, the ring and all that stuff. I remember that now. But no, I'm not familiar with it. I'm not a real big fantasy guy, you know. I'm just not. I don't know why. One old guy, thank you for the heads up. But I get it now. Like I get it now. That's right. Yeah. Amazing. And yeah, I do have a little bit of the dad brain going on. Off Label. The debate went just as I thought. All right, so have an amazing time streaming that. I did not catch much of it. I saw a couple of clips on the internet, and I think both sides are declaring victory, which is what you'd expect. But, you know, I don't know that we got anything new. I don't know that it's going to shake anybody off. Like, are Candace fans going to be like, actually, I like Andrew? Are Andrew fans going to be like, actually, Candace has a point? I doubt it. But maybe it was good. I haven't watched it. I think I may watch it just to see if there's anything that will shake loose some logical reasoning as we continue to cover the case. But yeah, so thank you, Off Label. Have a great stream tonight. Check it out over at Off Label Podcast if you want to join some more analysis. Yeah, Rob likes to not watch popular movies. There's something to that too. It's like, oh, everybody likes that. I'm not going to watch it. I'm just like that. It's in my DNA for some reason. I don't know why. Rick D, Judge Burroughs. Yeah, Judge Burroughs. We saw this. She was like the last one. We may come back on that one tomorrow, Rick D, on the Members Saturday show. But we've got reversed herself and is now saying the Somalis can leave. The Somalis can leave. It's time to go. TPS status is canceled. I think there's one judge left, Brian Murphy, who is still holding out on that. But amazing. Thank you for that, Rick D. Thanks for sharing the link. I think I have that one opened up, but we may hit that one tomorrow. I think it's a 23-page decision or something. But it's going to be the same arguments, okay? Every judge is just slowly chipping away. And the DHS lawyer called James. This is great. This dude's a riot. You don't see a lot of government lawyers who are this funny. But here's what he said. This is great. He said, wow, this is Homeland Security General Counsel. He said, Judge Burroughs just lifted her administrative stay. And the termination of Somalia TPS is now in effect. Congratulations, Judge. Then shared this image of United States of America Judge Decision Desk, Judge Allison Burroughs, check victory, no longer defying the Supreme Court. Oh, it's great. It's DHS General Counsel. Hilarious. Congratulations. You're no longer violating the Supreme Court of the United States, which is your boss. Wow. Congrats. So like just rubbing her nose in it. Hilarious. From a government lawyer. Hilarious, man. Shout out to that guy. So really great. Anyways, fun stuff. What's up, Zone Girl? Hey, this is sad. I have yet to see in person. Many had already passed before this was erected for this great generation. My dad never got to see this, World War II, I think. He served in both theaters despite being handicapped due to severe burns to legs and body when he was 8 years old. We have heathens in this country who have no respect for sacrifice or service. Yeah, it's not only that. It's not only no respect, it's open disdain and even outright hatred. Okay, they just hate some of America's most cherished accomplishments. It's not like, like they're just not educated properly or taught proper manners. It's way worse. It's open disdain and hatred. It started with a bad decision by SCOTUS that it was freedom of speech to burn the flag. We need civics. I think that's right, Zone Girl. But even civics, it's not going to solve some of these problems. There are people that just have open hatred. And as much as I appreciate things like, suicidal empathy, stuff like that, like Gad Sad's book, it's like, well, they have so much empathy that it's suicidal. Yes, to an extent, many of them have that, but some of them are just actively hateful. They just hate the nation. They have no love of it. It's not empathy that just has gone sour like a bad gallon of milk. It's just open hatred. And so I think if you mislabel it as an empathy, then you're kind of missing the actual deeper problem, which is just open disdain. But shout out to Gad Sad. What's up, one old guy? That Mangione kid should have just learned how to play the trumpet and the flugelhorn. You mean versus murdering a man? Yeah, that would have been a better idea. Would have been a better solution than going to prison for hopefully the rest of his life for doing that. But the flugelhorn sounds like an interesting instrument. Hey, one old guy, he should have said fundamentally insane. Yeah, fundamentally insane. For the World War II lady or for Luigi? Luigi, I don't think was insane at all. He knew what he was doing. It was all premeditated. He printed a gun. He traveled there. He looked it up, sent emails. He knew exactly what he was doing. Said the Mangione is too pretty for federal prison. He's going to have a rough prison ride from one old guy. Yeah, that's, one consequence. We don't encourage federal abuse. But unfortunately, sometimes it's a reality. And a lot of people like him for whatever reason. Hey, thank you, one old guy. Can't we all just get along? Anyone shocked he pleaded guilty? Just curious. I'm not. No, I'm not. I think the evidence was pretty strong. I'm also not writing out a Tyler Robinson guilty plea, to be honest with you. I think that might come next. If they offered to take the death penalty off, let's say that he is bound over, which I think is going to happen. He'll get bound over on everything. I would presume also on the aggravated murder charge, the aggravator being the key thing that they were fighting over. Robinson gets bound over. It's just probable cause. Even if you think there's a lot of, doubts about this, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just probable cause. Very low standard. And it's also looked at in a light most favorable to the government at this stage based on the statutes in Utah. So if it is bound over, which I think it will, I think the aggravation will also likely be bound over. Looking forward to the government's response, the Utah prosecutors' reply to that. We saw the defense we read through the defense motion, and a lot of it, almost the whole thing, was about the aggravator. And they identified a bunch of cases where they said the Robinson case is not like the other cases where aggravation was found. But I would fully suspect when the government responds, they're going to have an opposite list of cases that say it is exactly like an aggravated case. But we'll have to see. But point is, if he goes forward and if they take the death penalty off the table in exchange for a life in prison sentence without the possibility of parole, I would suspect his defense attorneys are going to say, you're going to take this, bro. And we'll see if he does or not. But same thing with Luigi Mangione. You want to get the best deal possible if you are not factually innocent. And maybe they'll have some arguments to say that he is factually innocent, but they haven't presented a lot on that yet. Doan, what's up? The left wants to normalize insanity because it counters the concept of good and evil. So we shouldn't feed their narrative. It's always been evil. Yeah, they try to relabel horrific things. For example, a genital mutilation of 14-year-olds. They call it gender affirmation. So we're going to lop your breasts off. Okay. So you're just trying to integrate it into society and have people accept it and normalize it and then indoctrinate their kids to do that thing. But ultimately, the whole thing does feel spiritual. And I feel like the word evil is used a little bit too much these days. You know, people are like screaming, like you have a bad opinion. Like, I hate your opinion. You're an evil person. You're like, it's just an opinion, bro. Like, I didn't murder anybody. Chill out. But a lot of it's being used out there. Everything is evil. Everything is evil. And I have a problem with that because if everything is evil, then all of a sudden nothing really becomes evil. It really is the same pattern that we see with everything. Like there are genuine racist people out there, but now everybody's racist. So really, is there racism at all? If everything is racist, you can't have an opinion about it, then kind of nothing's racist. And it kind of minimizes the phrase and the term. But in many ways, I do think the left does want to pursue spiritually dark, spiritually evil things. And they try to water over it to escape the true scrutiny. So thank you, Doan. I agree. The average mountain man. What are the odds Mangione gets life without parole in the federal case if you had to wager? Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I think I would say low. I think I don't know what percentage I'd put on it. Maybe 25% if I had to guess. I haven't looked into the sentencing guidelines or what the recommendation. If the government is recommending it, the defense will be recommending something much lower. I think it could be, you know, we might get like a Austin Metcalf type of case where they were asking for essentially life. The defense was asking for a lot less, and he got, what did he get? Like 35 years in that case. So they might split it, maybe something like that. And especially since there's not a murder charge. So what you'd want to do, it's like buying a house. You want to go get the comps. You want to pull the comps. What are the other stalking charges that may have led to murder, if there are any other comparable cases like that in federal court that you could compare against Luigi Mangione? The judge will be looking at that and say, oh, well, these stalking cases all got 35 years or 45 years. There was an aggravator here, whatever. So you just comp it out to see, you know, what the house costs next door. What does this case look like next door? And compare. But I would think the defense has done that already, which is why they use this strategy. They thought if we could just, you know, the murder charge is gone, so let's just go plead guilty right now. There's also been an acceptance of responsibility. So in the sentencing charts, that will have a reduction in terms of maximum penalty because the judge will say, oh, you had an aggravator, you murdered a guy, but you accepted responsibility, so that will reduce your liability. So I would suspect the defense knows that, and that's why this strategy is being deployed right now. Not only to get a better deal at federal level, but also to immunize himself against New York. So life without parole, I would say it's probably low, maybe 25%, but probably a big fat term on top of it. Like he probably won't be getting out for a long time. So the average mountain man, thank you. Then that's just speculation. I don't know what the other comps would look like, but More Here. Hey, thank you, More Here. Says, congrats on crossing 600K subs, man. Thank you, More Here. We appreciate that. And thanks to everybody who is here to make that happen. We really appreciate that. It looks good on us. And so we're just going to keep marching on, and we're excited about it. We really appreciate everybody joining us who really care about these issues as much as we do. We got a country to save, baby. So thank you for that, More Here. Sharpie Guy, when Piero said the Vandal looked just as we'd expect, I think that is seriously kind. My dad would have referenced a mud fence, evil inside, really unattractive outside, Rob, as well. It's true. Yeah, it might be the drugs, might just be a spiritual perversion. You know, I think it does manifest itself. Like people who are toxic inside, I think it does emanate out of them. They get a look to them. It's like not far off from the Star Wars stuff. The dark side turns your face into a wrinkly, demonic look. I think toxicity and constant animosity, like this idea that everyone's out to get you. Everything's about the patriarchy. Everything is just fascism everywhere you look. It leads to a toxicity, which I don't think is healthy at all. You need to get that stuff out, pray, spend time with your family, get exercise, get movement. Otherwise, that stuff builds and compounds, and I think it probably causes cancer too. Or leads to addictions and can become very problematic. I say that as a recovered alcoholic. So I have some experience. Sharpie guy, what's going on? Hey, Jim tells you, you're back in business, baby? Amazing, Jim. We'll send some friends your way this afternoon. Have a great stream. Blue Spark, what's up? Over on Rumble. I flushed a paper towel down my girlfriend's toilet. Now she keeps shouting about being filled with murderous rage. Well, is it clogged or did it flush? I mean, I think sometimes you can get away with that. Like, you're not supposed to do that, right? But, they also criticize you about those flushable wipes. And I think that sometimes there's no problem with those either. But talk to a plumber, man. They'll scream at you. They'll say, don't do it. Don't do any of those things. Is it clogged? I mean, if it just flushed down, then you're good. It's paper. It's going to dissolve. Not going to dissolve as easily as TP, but hopefully there's no problems over there. There's nothing worse than a clogged toilet. And hopefully you guys can smooth things over. Cliff, what's up? On World War II monument vandalism, Omar, professor of the Leering Center, called it World War XI. I know, we saw that clip. Hilarious. Melissa is part of a larger set of women filled with feelings but lack critical thinking skills. See graph on the shift. Yeah, the partisan gap between young men and women almost doubled in the past 25 years. Yeah, I've seen these charts. It is pretty crazy. What caused that? Is it feminism? I don't know. Feminism was a while ago. This was really a big shift in 2010 and 2015. It really jumped about 2015, according to this chart. Was it Trump? Was it reactionary to Trump? Was it DEI type of proposals? Was it abortion? What was it? I don't know. But I think that's a big problem. I mean, if you continue that trajectory forward and you inculcate an entire generation of people who have no values and their values are totally misaligned, society's in big trouble because they're not going to have babies and we need more people. Winning reality. If you study Marx's early work, it's easy to see Marxism was crafted with demonic intent. So all that comes from its propagated evil. Marxism and the evil energy behind it is always the root cause. Yeah, and there's a great book. What is it called? Marx and the Devil? Is it that book? Talked about Marx and the Devil. Is that the book? The Devil and Karl Marx. Yeah, The Devil and Karl Marx talks about Marx's early poetry. And in it, let me see if I can find it. Marx writes a poem where he's almost praising the devil. And it was like poetry, but yeah. So here's like a recap. Marx wrote a poem called Dear Spielman. In this poem, Marx depicts a violinist who plays wildly, claiming his instrument was given to him by the devil. So in other words, like Marx is the violinist and he's playing this song and people are listening to the music and the violin was given to him by the devil. He writes, the hellish vapors rise and fill the brain till I go mad and my heart is utterly changed. See this sword? The Prince of Darkness sold it to me, for he beats the time and gives the signs. Ever more boldly I play the dance of death. Over and over, like in his poetry, it's riddled with devil themes. And yeah, so in other words, a lot of satanic influence there. There's a whole book about that, The Devil and Karl Marx, which was an interesting read. I'm not really into poetry all that much. I was as a younger man, but you know, you grow out of things. But yeah, Marx apparently was very demonic in his poetry writing. So it makes sense. And he hated Christianity, hated it. It was like Christianity and capitalism were the two C's that he hated. Why would that be? Thank you, Winning Reality. Great comment. And it is a very evil ideology. Jonah Finn, use vile. It's the same letters and similar meaning as evil. Yeah. And I'm not opposed to labeling things as evil, but like everything has been labeled evil and both sides do it. Everybody's like doing it right now. This person has an opinion, therefore they're evil. What they're doing is evil. It's like, all right. You know, some words need to really have like a reservation for that phrase. You may just strongly disagree. You may, you know, and demonic is the other one that's being thrown around a lot. It's like, all right, maybe it is, but it's become so commonplace. I don't want it to become commonplace because I want it reserved for actual true evil. And there is a lot of that in this world. So just me, hey, the start of the downhill slide of American society was Madeline Murray O'Hare, though karma for her was a 55-gallon drum. What happened in the drum? And that's the nicest thing I can say about her. Like she got a barrel of oil. Don't know who that is. I'll have to look that one up. Madeline Murray O'Hare. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, so the Marxism, I mean, think about that. Like, go back to Marx. Think about how he's kind of salivating over the devil, giving him the violin, and how it has permeated into all of these other, it's got basically a whole underpinning of a political party right now. Crazy. All right, so friends, great comments. Thank you for the donations and for being here on this lovely evening. See if we got any other comments, and then we'll wrap it up on the day. And of course, members, we'll see you back in the morning. Can't wait to see you. If you care to join us tomorrow morning, see what else we got cooking here, and then we'll close it out. Yeah, there's a lot of words that I just think are overused. I'm not saying things are not evil. I just try not to use it too much because I want to reserve it for the actual evil things. We've got things that, you know, things may be twisted, things may be improper, things may be impolite, things may be, you know, corrupt or dark or all sorts of things. Or there's a lot better words. I can't really think about them right now, but you know, evil, like it's like a spiritual connection to like a demon. You know, it's like Satan acting on this earth. All right, the veil. Can that supposed 41-year-old woman be charged with aggravated poisoning of wildlife by flooding the fountain with soap? Well, I don't think there's anything in that fountain. Since the wildlife does drink from the fountains around there, wildlife in DC goes and drinks the, like what? All the deer running around? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. K Bean, I rarely say evil because my definition of evil changed after war. Yeah, like there's a whole nother category, right? Like people tweeting on the internet, people doing podcasts, even if you disagree and you think that what they're doing is horrendous and horrific and completely inappropriate and disgusting. Like you could be disgusted by it. But like there is such dark evil, like bona fide evil in the world. And so I don't want to minimize that. Dan, another Democrat busted, baby. Oh yeah, this one. The Mississippi vice mayor indicted for money laundering and bid rigging. Democrats getting arrested all over the place. Why are they so corrupt? You'll never know. Because they're Marxist. Hey, the veil. Can the Thompson family sue United Health for the murder? I don't know that United Health is liable for anything. Here is why I can propose this. Thompson was CEO. If United was an honest health plan, that was good. If they were good, maybe he wouldn't have been shot. I got it. So then Mr. Thompson would be alive. Does he have a lawsuit? I don't think so. I don't think they can. I mean, unless they had some responsibility, like did they promise him security and then fail? Like where were they negligent? Having a bad product, you know, I don't think that makes them liable for murder, but interesting comment. Mangione has no direct connection to health, but was just mad at all insurance companies for denying claims. Interesting point. Yeah, so definitely not then. He didn't even have a bad experience with United Health. He was just mad in general, including his own history of supposed bad dealings in health insurance companies. Thank you, Chuck. Great comment. Really fleshes that out. Good stuff. All right. So the Veil, thank you for that, my man. We appreciate those comments. Let's see anything over on X, and then we'll wrap on the night. Hopefully you're doing something fun. Neuro D, thank you for these. Yeah, Hypernova. You know, I'm not trying to dunk on this lady too much, but if she's 41, she's had a rough one because she looks 60. Yeah, drugs are bad. Okay. B-Torn, another, hey, thank you for that, Hypernova. We got B-Torn, another day, another activist judge whose history began with George McGovern's utter failure to defeat Nixon in 1972. Oh, the Harvard lawsuit. Judge dismisses Trump administration lawsuit alleging Harvard failed to protect, I think that was the Jews, right? An anti-Semitism case. Interesting. We'll see if the DOJ appeals that one. What's up? And thank you, B-Torn. Neuro D, sharing our links. You can watch us also over on Rumble. You can watch us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where you can sign up to become a member, or you can join us on YouTube as a member. And we'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our Saturday stream. And we're looking forward to that. Rob, what's up? Hey, sorry I am late, Rob. Did you bring a note? All right, we'll excuse it this time. We're just glad you made it. Dan, Madeleine Murray O'Hair was a prominent American activist and founder of the American Atheists. Great. Best known for initiating the landmark 1963 Supreme Court case Murray versus Kirtland, which banned mandatory prayer and Bible reading in public schools. Yeah, that was a real problem. And I listened to this guy, man, where was he from? He spoke at the Feds for Freedom event. And where was he from? Amazing talk about just how integrated really Christianity was, spirituality, religion, and the Bible in early America for a long time until like the 1960s. It was integrated. You had prayers in school, you had all these things, because the thesis was at the founding that education is mostly useless if you don't have a moral foundation and proper values. You got to have those two things. Otherwise, you could be educated out the wazoo, but who cares if you don't have a good moral backbone? And it was a great talk. Feds for Freedom, if you want to check out their YouTube channel, he gave a great talk. He like walked through like 200 years of this and then said all of a sudden they killed it because they hate Jesus. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. And friends, it's been a lovely day. What a wonderful time it has been. Happy Friday. Hopefully you're doing something fun this weekend, spending time with friends, family, all the people that we love, getting outside, getting some fresh air, getting some movement. Big thank yous to our amazing mods and meme smiths on the day. We got Muffin Rando. What's up, John, in the house? We got Donut Mind Me. Shout out to K-Bean out there. We got Neuro D, Janek, and Dog Digger on the Rumbles. We got Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, keeping things nice and orderly around here. Thank you to them. And my friends, thank you to you for being here. If you haven't subscribed already, thank you for doing that on the way out so we never miss you again. Thanks for liking the video, sharing the show with a friend or family member to come back and join us when we go live. But otherwise, we'll pause here and leave it until we're back on the next one. And so I hope you're having a great weekend. Hopefully it's pizza night or ice cream night or something good. You've earned it. And we'll come back on Monday to get into it again. But in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend. Sleep very well, and we'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through